You notice to enunciate that message about putting on garments of all those good virtues and then love, they did some of it in slow-mo. Yeah, you have to, because everyone knows you can't hurry love, right? You just have to wait. Okay, according to the theology of the Supremes anyway, right? Yeah. Today we're wrapping up this sermon on be still. One little part of one little verse in Psalms, be still. And Pastor Paul has trusted me to wrap it up, and he's also trusted me to start the next one on burning questions. He actually said, here's all the burning questions. Bev, pick one that you would like to preach on. I read them, and I went, no. Yeah. Nope. So I said, how about if I just talk about the idea of questioning? And so who knows what's going to happen next week, but I'm going to leave the burning questions to our on-fire pastor, Paul, who will do a great job of all of those, and I look forward to them. Today's last installment of this series follows the whole idea of be still, which we're terrible at. And every generation lately, just even from when I was a kid and some of you were a kid, we've gotten worse and worse and worse at knowing how to be still. There is no stillness. And solitude, because in solitude you meet the one who loves you most. You meet the God of the universe. He loves you recklessly, and yet we don't go in solitude to meet him. And then last week, Sabbath, I still can't stop thinking about stop making the bricks. You don't have to make the bricks today, Bev. It's just been on my mind all week. It's brilliant. And today we come to unhurried love. Have you ever stopped to consider the impact of this fast-paced, constantly moving, electrified world on our ability, the impact on our ability to truly love others, to truly love them? So our question for the morning, our discussion question is, first let me just look at the Psalm 46:10. I looked at the Message version. I don't know if Pastor Paul shared it, but I loved the way it came out. It came out, Peter wrote, step out of the traffic. The guy who translates, step out of the traffic. Oh, that lands with us today, doesn't it? Step out of the traffic, take a long, loving look at me, your high God, above politics. I think when Eugene Peterson did this translation many, many years ago now, he had no idea how prevalent that would be. Above politics, above the politics of the local church, of the local state, of our nation, of Russia and China and India. Step out of all that. And you will find me, your high God, above politics, above everything. Step out of the traffic. Be still. So I've been telling myself, step out of the traffic, Bev. Be still. Because this week I had my phone on because I wanted to hear the news breaks about that submersible. Were you watching it? Were you grieving it? Were you praying? Yeah, we were, weren't we? Because it just popped up, and I wanted to say, is there anything else about it? What else do we know? Oh, we heard sounds. Oh my gosh, I just got so excited. And that night before, I'm just praying, and I'm waking up the next morning, and I go, the air is gone. And it was almost a relief then when they said it imploded early on. But I've watched it, and I followed it. I spent a whole lot of energy about it. In the meantime, there were refugees, 700 of them, in a very small boat out on the high sea, and they sunk. I heard about it, but it wasn't popping up every few minutes on my phone, was it? Same thing. People drowning, people being lost, and there were hundreds of them drowned and lost. But what were we talking about? The 5 people in the submersible. Not that that's a bad thing. Not that it's a bad thing, but it says something about the world where I live and what pops up on my phone, and then Disney videos. Oh, there's Tigger hugging a cute kid, all of those things. It says something about the hurriedness and the fullness of my life that keeps me from noticing to step out of the traffic, because God is above all that. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. and know that I am God. So the question today is, how does our hurriedness interfere with our ability to love others well? I got to admit, I've been living with this all week before you starting today, but I've been living with this all week. Unhurried love, moment by moment. How does my hurriedness, busyness, how does it affect my ability to love others well? So find someone to have a little conversation. I'll give you 30 seconds or so. See what you come up with. How, not if, but how does our hurriedness interfere with our ability to love others well? Go. So how does our hurriedness, how does it interfere with our ability to love others well? Anybody? Anybody? This group has to go out to lunch to talk more, I can tell. Yeah, this group. Yeah. It really, really does. The more time you take to think about that, it really, really does. What if hurry kills love? What if it's like a pesticide that when love is trying to bloom, killed, you know? What if it kills love? What if hurry keeps us from seeing the image of God in other people? When you encounter people like that and you're on your way to do something else and you're already thinking about something else, can you see the image of God in other people? And what if when we slow down and as this author Comer says, ruthlessly eliminate hurry. Whoa. That's a project, isn't it, in your life? Need a summer project? Ruthlessly eliminate hurry. What if we are able to love then, really love those around us? Because, as we say every week, it is our number one job, right? What's our number one job? Love, yeah. And if we're in a hurry, we may be spraying insecticide on the love that should be blooming between us and other people. Through the practice of slowing, here's a big idea. Through the practice of slowing, we can cultivate a spirit of unhurried love towards ourselves, others, and God. Got it? Let's read it together the way it should be read. Through the practice of slowing, we can cultivate a spirit of unhurried love towards ourselves, others, and God. It's kind of a small idea, isn't it? Slow. Go slower. Turns out it's hard, though. It's a small idea, but it's so very hard. John Ortberg quote here has a definition of slowing. He says, slowing is cultivating patience by deliberately choosing to place ourselves in positions where we simply have to wait. Cultivating patience is deliberately training ourselves, put ourselves in positions where we just have to wait. Some suggestions in this John Mark Comer book that Pastor Paul loaned to me. Some suggestions. He said, do not let your phone, and as a matter of fact, I had my phone up here first service because I didn't have my watch and I just needed to know how long we were going. I don't care now, I left it down there. But I had my phone up here and I thought, what a hypocrite here, right? He said, do not let your phone set your emotional equilibrium and your news feed set your view of the world. Whoa, guilty. My whole view of the world was in that submersible this week. My emotional equilibrium comes off my phone by what my last kid texted me, what's going on. So he suggests, go back to a flip phone. Anyone? A flip phone, I know some phones flip, but they're still smartphones. A not smartphone. Or he said you can take off all the apps that keep sending you all these things like Tigger hugging kids and stuff. You can turn all those off. And Kristen and I, my daughter, were planning this trip, and she said, it's so far away. She said, I had to turn off all these things because she said it was just, I was inundated with it. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to wait. I can't wait. So we can wait, and we can be unhurried about it. So he says, turn off things on your phone or get a flip phone. And your TV, he says, kill it. Do you meet people once in a while and you'll say, I just finished watching Ted Lasso and I was just so sad that it was over and I was just so this whole season I've been. And the person says, oh, is that on TV? I don't have a TV. Do you know people like that? And then you first think, you're crazy. And then the other thing you think is, you are superior to me because you probably read books and have conversations and volunteer and do things. Comer says, your TV, kill it. And he has killed TV. The problem is I can watch everything on my iPad now. Yep. He says, give up multitasking. Oh, we're so proud that I'm a multitasker. We're proud of it. We put it on our resume. I'm a great multitasker. He says, go back to single tasking. And he quotes Walter Brueggemann, who says, multitasking is the drive to be more than we are, to control more than we do, to extend our power and our effectiveness, giving full attention to nothing. So it's not a good thing in the end. It's not a good thing. Now, my daughter has a 1.5-year-old and an almost 4-year-old, and she has to multitask or she'd never make it through her day. Sometimes I have to multitask. I had to when I was working. But you know what now? I started thinking about my life this week and started thinking about this, and I thought, you know what? I can go back to being proud that I'm a single tasker because I can give all my attention to one thing that is most important right there, even if it's just my own soul. It's more than enough to consume all my attention. Check yourself this week and see if you can give all your attention to one thing at a time. So very challenging, so very hard. Another thing he says about hurriedness is he said, just walk slower. Do you know someone who walks slow? After church, someone was telling me their husband has Parkinson's, and she said, I've had to learn to walk slow. Yeah, walk slow. And do one thing, see one thing, address one thing at a time. I know people who walk slow, and they are talking slow and doing everything. Some people eat slow. I promise you that if I ever mastered the art of eating slow, there would be much less of me standing up here, you know? Eat slow. And then practice all the things that Pastor Paul's been talking to us about, like solitude and silence and journaling and mindfulness and meditation. And then he finally says, take vacations. Now, once you get retired, it's hard to tell yourself you deserve a vacation, but the fact is that our lives still get full of people and things, and sometimes you need to be able to walk away from all that and take vacation. And in the Old Testament, the Israelites used to have 3 yearly vacations as a people. They were festivals where there was no work done. Tons of preparation was done. But when it came down to their 7-day festivals, and their 6-day, 7-day festivals actually were 8 days because there were Sabbaths on either end. So there were 3 times a year that for 8 days they did no work. What a good idea. All these things. Why? Why kill your TV? Why go back to your flip phone? Why walk slower? Why single task? All to make room for love. Unhurried love. Now, scripture that Shelley read us, I'm going to read in the Message version. It's Colossians 3:12 through 14, and this is the Message version. He uses a metaphor here about putting on clothing. Even back then, as different as our worlds are from them, they all wear clothes, we all wear clothes, so good on you, Paul, for using a metaphor that translates thousands of years. Put on clothes, and we all know that we choose clothes carefully. We want our clothes to show how we're showing up and what we want and how we are. During COVID, we all had our sweatpants on, and we all wore the same thing day after day after day, unless we put on a nice blouse because we were on a Zoom meeting. That's what I did. And we didn't even think about it. So Paul's telling them to be intentional about putting on these clothes. I have to tell you about my stepdaughter, Bethany, who is a riot. She's so fun. She's delightful, and she always was. I met her when she was 4 years old, and she's been a delight. But as a teenager and a young adult, Bethany had more wardrobe malfunctions than anybody I'd ever met. Nothing that you'd get arrested for or anything like that, just kind of bad luck. Like she bought in high school, I remember the day she called to tell me all about this. She bought in high school a vintage dress for prom. She was a stylish thing. She bought this vintage dress at a shop, and I think it was an old bridesmaid's dress, and it was kind of an evergreen green, and it was beautiful, and she was so excited to wear it, and so she got ready for prom, and her friends all picked her up, and they went to prom, and they went to dinner. And halfway through dinner, somebody said, Bethany? She went in the bathroom and looked, and her deodorant had melted her dress under her arms, and it was all green. So she's in there scrubbing. That's the kind of thing that happened to Bethany. The best one, though, I think, is when she met her husband. They had been talking from his at Camp Lejeune. He was a Captain Marine Kinsey, and she was in Greensboro, and so they decided they'd meet, and they only were talking because they had both accidentally, it's not an accident, it was a God incident. They had accidentally put their parameters too big, and so they got hooked up, and so they were talking and talking. They finally decided that they would meet. They would meet halfway for dinner. They met halfway, and you know how you are when you have, I don't know, I never had but one blind date. What do you do? You get ready, you got to look a little special, and ladies, sometimes we have to go shopping, right? So Bethany went out, and she told her sister, I got a cute little shirt. She and Kristen it's always a cute little purse, cute little shirt. Is that a thing, or is that just them? It's a cute little. I said, are you happy with your cute littles? Yeah. She bought a cute little shirt, and she went and met Jeremy, and they dined, and they hit it off. And it was a great first date, and she really liked him. And she drove back to Greensburg, and he drove back to Camp Lejeune. And she got there, and she went in her bathroom, and she looked in the mirror, and on her cute little shirt, there was one of those see-through tags that said, large, 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 large. She thought she'd never get over it. He swears he never noticed it. Now, is that a gentleman or what? He either didn't look or he's lying, but that's a gentleman. And so when we say put on clothes, put on the right clothes. Put on what God has given us to wear, because that's the way we're gonna be seen. That's the way we're gonna show up in the world. And she said this in Colossians, Paul says, chosen by God for this new life of love, dress in the wardrobe God picked out for you. Dress in compassion, dress in kindness, in humility, in quiet strength, in discipline. Be even-tempered, content with second place, quick to forgive an offense. Forgive as quickly and completely as the Master forgave you. And regardless of what else you put on, wear love. It's your basic all-purpose garment. And we say love covers a multitude of sins. Well, love covers a multitude of garments here, in that you'll be working on all these things like compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience. But if you're working on those, make sure That however well you're doing at those, it's all covered by love. And that whatever happens as a result is you're saying, I was coming at this from love. Because it's hard to care about people, even to see people, if you don't have compassion. If you just really, really can't look, because it's going to hurt your heart to look. If you can't have kindness. Kindness is not a fleeting thing. It takes time. Humility takes time. Gentleness takes time, because a caress is a shove if it's too quick, right? Patience, of course, patience takes time. If you get there quick, it's not patience, right? To sit with people that God brings into our lives, to keep time and space and let them grow and heal and change, is really the definition of unhurried love. Michael Beck, who's talked to us, and he's told us a lot about fresh expressions, and has a new book coming out very soon. It's very exciting, but I found one thing he said that I thought was just so brilliant. It's something we needed to hear today, and here's what Michael Beck wrote. He said, our guiding principle is to be a good friend and listener. You can't do that quickly, can you? Friendship takes time. Listening takes time. He says, start with creating a community of belonging first, and belief and behavior come later. See, in the history of the church, we were often said, here's what you need to believe. Do you believe it? Okay, good. You're done. Oh, no, wait. You have to get rid of your behaviors that are contrary to that. Okay, are you done? Good. In seminary at Asbury, I had a professor of evangelism, and not every Saturday night, but many Saturday nights, he always had a suit on and a tie when he taught. But on these Saturday nights, he would put on his denim jacket, kind of an old denim jacket that had Jesus patches all over it, and he'd put that on, and the boys would go with him, some girls, I guess, but mostly it was guys back then, and he would take a crate or something, he'd take it out with a microphone, and they would go to a corner in Lexington, Kentucky, and he would preach for commitment. He preached about Jesus, and he would call people out on the street, some of them homeless, some of them poor, some of them just kind of lost on the corner. He would call them to commitment to Jesus Christ. And you know what? He had a gift of evangelism, and there was no reason he shouldn't have been doing that. There were many, many lives changed by that. But I don't think as a church, that's what we're called to. I think we're called to a much slower but just as effective process of bringing people along to where they belong. And maybe they're only going to belong in your house, where you're going to have your church meeting, or on your pickleball court. Maybe they're only going to feel like they belong there at first. But somewhere along, they're going to be shown beliefs, and those beliefs are going to be attractive to them because you have not hurried love. You've just presented beliefs to them in love. And after they adopt those beliefs for their own, someday, sometime, in an unhurried way, their behavior is going to change. So you can't be like my friend Rick. His dad went to church, never went to church, but finally he went, and Rick was like, whoa! His dad went to revival, and somebody got up and preached, and somebody got to his heart, and he went forward and accepted Christ, and it was all so exciting. We were all just like, seriously, Rick's dad, because he was a rough cookie, a tough cookie. We were so excited about that, and Rick said, guess what happened? Very conservative church. The pastor came over that very next week to visit with him, tell him, we're so glad you came. We're so glad you came forward. We're so glad that you came and accepted Christ. Now, as soon as you quit smoking, you will be welcome to attend our church and join. Does that freak anybody else out? I said, no. No, he didn't. Rick said he did, because it was a very conservative denomination. That's what he did. So through the practice of slowing, this is a personal thing. Gosh, it's such a personal thing to me. I've been living with it all week going, Bev, the practice of slowing, we can cultivate a spirit of unhurried love towards ourselves. Because really, what good are we to ourselves if we can't cultivate a spirit of unhurried love towards ourselves? And then to others. What good are we to our family or our community or our church or our world if we can't love because we're so distracted? And what good are we for God's sake? What are we good for God if we don't come at God with the response to that reckless love that we sang about earlier? That one always gets me. Whew. To respond to that can't be hurried. You can't hurry that kind of love. Let's pray together. Slow me down, Lord. Unhurry me for the sake of love. Slow us down for our own sakes, that we might be just in your presence, where we want to be, where we love to be. Slow us down for the sake of our families and those we love and those we know. But further, Lord, slow us down in this hurried world for those we don't know and those who don't know you. And Lord, slow us down for the sake of our relationship with you, that it might grow and prosper and bloom with no hurry trying to snuff it out. We can learn this, Lord. Your Holy Spirit will help. And we give ourselves today to slowing it down. In Jesus' name, amen.